Hello, Lara friends. Welcome back to another live stream. Welcome back to another episode of my series Behind Laravel, where I talk to employees of Laravel about packages and products that they have created. Last time we talked about Reverb with Joe Dixon, and today I have Dries Vints here, and we will talk about Cashier. So we're going to start by interviewing Dries a little bit. So please prepare your question for later when I ask you, and then we will have some time to talk about your questions if we still have time. But I think we will have. So enjoy the stream and let's bring in the one and only Mr. Dries Vints from Belgium. Hello,
Hey
Dries.
Christoph, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time and having you here. And I hope we both will have a lot of fun, but also everyone watching. So it's good to have you here. Maybe let's start. Let's just start by. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do at Laravel?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Dries. Like you said, I live in Belgium, close to Antwerp. I've been a web developer for, I think, 14, 15 years by now. Been working with Laravel for 11 years now, like way back in the day. And I've been working for Laravel as an employee since 2018 now. Yeah, so for quite a while already, 6 years. And my role at Laravel is mostly maintaining the open source side of things. So maintaining the packages, triaging issues, pull requests, making sure that things get solved and that the right people are assigned to the right issues and stuff like that. And doing the weekly releases as well on Tuesday, making sure that all of the new features and bug fixes get released. Besides that, I also maintain Spark, which is like the billing portal for Cashier. And I help out with customer support there and bug fixing and feature development as well. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So we know that you do a lot, especially on the open source side. And we see your tweet every week about all the packages and all the updates that you and everybody else is doing. So yeah, there's a lot going on. And you said you joined Level 6 years ago. I believe you were the second employee. Is that right?
That's correct. Mohammed was the first one. He was already there, I think, way longer than me. I think almost for like quite a couple of years before me. And I joined in October 2018, so it's more like 5.5 years now, almost 6 years. Uh, at the time, my previous role at my previous job was ending, and Taylor posted an advert for looking for someone to help him maintain open source packages. And it was really something that I was already like trying to do a lot in my free time. So doing it as a full-time job seemed like a perfect fit for me. We tried it out for like 2 weeks in October 2018, and then I came on full-time afterwards. Yeah.
And then Taylor was like, yeah, we need this guy. And it also feels like this is like the perfect fit for you because the way you handle this, because it's not easy handling that many projects. So it's quite of an organizing task, but you also have to deal with a lot of people, and not everyone is friendly and not everyone is happy with decisions that we have. So I really feel you are the perfect fit for this job. So I'm really glad we have you doing this.
Yeah.
I think it's
Thanks.
also a
Yeah,
little bit.
it's mm.
Sorry, you.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge sometimes, but I have to say, like most of the majority is very fun to work with. Like we have a great community who's super friendly,
You
and
have.
like it's great that way. Yeah.
Before we get into Cashier, there's one thing I wanted to ask you. Do you remember the first time that we met or interacted on the internet and Twitter? Do you remember this? Because I thought about this today.
Yeah, I don't remember the first time on the internet. I do remember the first time in real life. It was at Laracon EU. Um, I'm not sure what the year was. I think it was 2015, if I remember correctly. But
Amsterdam, probably.
on yeah, but on I think it was in Amsterdam at Meervaart, if I remember correctly. But the In first time we interacted on Twitter, I can't remember exactly, but it was quite a few years before that, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I just checked this today because I still remember this very good because I created my first PR. I looked it up 10 years ago, 2014. And before I did this, I reached out to you because you had this blog article about, I wasn't sure, is it about how to contribute to Laravel or how to make a PR? Maybe a general thing
Yeah,
as well. And you described it
yeah,
really well. And back then, this was really, yeah, difficult for me. And I think I reached out to you and asked for a little bit of help for this first PR. So I still remember this
oh
very
wow,
good. Yeah. And it's
yeah,
10 years ago, which is kind of crazy, right?
it's crazy. That's crazy for sure. Yeah, yeah. Like you said, like I've known so many people now from way back in the days as well who are still around. I've also seen a lot of people come and go as well over the
Oh,
years.
yeah.
But it's great that you still see so many familiar faces from so many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So one last fun thing between you and Mohammed, who is the first employee now. Did this change now since he left and he's now back, or have you settled this, or what is the current state here?
No, I still haven't caught up. Like, if we really count in like totality of years and months, he still has more time
Oh
at
yeah,
Laravel than me. Yeah. Plus, I think like even that doesn't matter. He'll still remain the first employee of Laravel forever. He
yeah,
really deserves that. Yeah.
yeah. That's true. Okay, let's talk about Cashier. So the perfect thing for this interview, not for me, but for everyone else, is that I haven't used it before. I have to admit this. So this means I can ask all the dumb questions, so nobody else to ask them. I'm going to do this for you. So I'm the only one here feeling a little bit embarrassed maybe today, but that's fine. But maybe let's start with what is Cashier and yeah, give us a little bit introduction and maybe also how it started.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you can ask me any question. There are no dumb questions, of course.
Oh, that's good.
Well, Cashier is basically our first party integration with Stripe and Paddle. So what it basically does, it provides a very fluent API for hooking up Laravel with Paddle and Cashier, with Paddle and Stripe. It makes use of the APIs that they both provide and just allows for a very fluent way and easy way to interact. So it takes away all of the pain of like having to write the code you need to handle the API requests and the responses and the webhooks and what else there is. And it makes like a really enjoyable way to integrate those two payment providers into your application. And you mainly use them for different type of purposes, but mainly for subscription. So you could write a subscription service for your application so people can get recurring payments set up with your application if you're building a SaaS, for example. And they also have functionality to provide single payments as well. So if you have like an e-store or like an e-book or like a video course that you want to sell, that you then you can also use both of them to set it up and get it going on your application. I guess like Taylor was the first person to write a Stripe integration, which was the first Cashier version. We used to have a Braintree version of Cashier as well,
Hmm.
but we kind of let that one go because it wasn't very popular. And after a while, we started looking into Paddle as well because they had the Merchant of Records thing, which is like a single thing to manage everything billing related around taxes as well. So you can totally focus on just writing your application code and not having to focus on the billing side of things anymore. And we wrote a Cashier version for Paddle as well because it was like a very obvious choice for us because it was becoming so popular. And now we have two versions together with Spark as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about this. So there are two different packages currently, one for Paddle and one for Stripe, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and I want also to go a step back. So you said some kind of fluent API to use Paddle or Stripe, but we're not talking about an SDK here just to use this API in a kind of Laravel way. We are talking about way more features that this provides, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So usually when you integrate with an API, you would expect like an SDK, like you said. So an SDK is more like a direct code to API integration where you talk to an API through the code of the language that you're writing in. For example, if you're doing a post request to an API, you could just call it in the native code that you're writing, like PHP. But Cashier goes way further than that. Like it actually provides you with a fluent interface for the API. So it talks more into like a natural language that you expect to integrate with a payment provider. So subscriptions, for example, is basically like a sort of model, like an eloquent model that you can integrate with. And the way you start a subscription or manage a subscription, it's all done with very readable code that you integrate with. So it doesn't really have like a very strict way of integrating with the API. It offers you like much more flexibility and actually solves a lot of problems behind the scenes as well that you would have otherwise needed to solve yourself. The way you handle incoming webhooks from a payment provider, how it like updates the subscription to the correct state, how
Mhm.
it would like send you failed payment notifications and anything like that. It's all taken care of like in the libraries itself. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And when we talk about the data for all of this, because a thing that is different for all this payment solution is also where the data lives. Where are the invoices? Where are the records? Where are the users? And if I understand it correctly, with Cashier, this all will live also inside your Laravel app, right?
That, that's correct. Like we try to save and synchronize a lot of the data that you have in Stripe and Paddle itself into your local database as well, so you can reduce API calls. We could have like decided to just provide an integration with the API only and not to the database model, but then that would mean you would have to do a lot of API calls to fetch data. It's a bit of a trade-off because if you fetch the data directly from the payment provider, you'll know that it will be up to date and correct. But if you do it in the database of your application, you'll need to make sure that the data is always up to date with the payment
Yeah.
provider. And that's where webhooks come in. So the webhooks that Cashier can listen to will always keep the payment, keep the subscription and the payment data in your database up to date. And that really helps with reducing the API calls and making sure that your app is still very fast when you interact with the data. I guess like right now, Cashier saves subscriptions and, and customer state, the Stripe version that is. And
Hmm.
Paddle also saves receipts for it specifically. There isn't really like a big design decision behind that. I guess like for the Paddle side of things, it made more sense at the time to do that and not for the Stripe side of things.
And we often discussed now or mentioned Pedal and Stripe. So for people maybe not that familiar with both option, um, is there any kind, what's the difference between those two? And would you say if you need this, then pick Stripe, and if you need this, then use Pedal, or how would you distinguish between those two payment providers?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, Stripe and Paddle are very, very different payment providers. The one is much larger, which is Stripe. Of course, they've been along for a longer time, and a lot of the payment providers that are currently out there, like Paddle, like other ones, are actually using Stripe behind the scenes. Stripe has the larger infrastructure to handle payments. They integrate directly between banks and other like major banking systems, and they offer a very great infrastructure to handle payments on the web. They offer a lot more functionality. They are a lot more flexible in terms of like what you can do. They have lots of different products as well for you to integrate with. While Paddle, for example, is much more narrow in terms of features, but they offer sometimes some people would argue a better user experience for developers. So and for businesses because they offer the merchant of record model, which is basically a model that allows a business to only focus on payments and not on the nitty-gritty bits like taxation and customer support for billing related things. They basically, whenever you do a payment, you send them all of the details where a customer is located and such, and they will calculate all of the taxes that are needed for the payment to be handled and the receipts and invoices that need to be drafted. And that takes a lot away from you to do accounting, for example. It makes everything very simple. At the end of the month, you get one reverse invoice for the income you made during that month. And it's just a very smooth experience to integrate with. The trade-off that you get with a payment provider like Paddle is that the customers are actually Paddle's customers because they calculate the taxes from their own entity towards the purchases that are made, which makes it easy for them to do the calculation of the taxes. And you get a reverse invoice from them. That might be a deal breaker for a lot of businesses which are larger, but for a lot of people who are selling ebooks on the web or like e-courses or whatever, it's a very neat experience to have because you have such an easy way to integrate. The downside is that they're limited, more limited in functionality than something like Paddle.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan and user of Pedal because before that, it's super complicated to do all this yourself without a merchant of record, especially if you're that small. So, for example, if I sell one of my video courses to someone in another country, I have to find out now what is the tax amount that I need to get from this user, and then I need to put this money back into this country again. And there are different services
Hmm.
for this. But yeah, for a small shop like my store or for other people or small businesses, this is a huge amount of work. And of course, for Paddle, you have to pay a little bit, some percentages you have to give off. But yeah,
Yeah,
what you gain here is so much more time. And as you said, now with every invoice, I normally sell, I get them like, I don't know, like every day, a couple ones or every week. But now with
mhm.
Paddle, I only get them once a month, which is, yeah, crazy when you think about the amount of work you now have to do for your accounting, because now I get from Paddle just 12 invoices, which are super easy to handle compared to, I don't know, 100 ones, which I would have without that. So for me, Paddle was for sure a lifesaver, and especially this
Yeah,
merchant of record
yeah,
system.
for sure. And like you mentioned, there's another trade-off. Paddle is a little bit more expensive than Stripe, but you get quite a bit back for it as well. I guess like whenever your business grows in such a way that like the percentage will become a deal breaker, you'll have more issues to worry about, and then you can maybe consider Stripe more than Paddle.
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe let's go a step back again. So you said Taylor started with Cashier, or back then it was called something else, and then you took over. Was this kind of like a smooth transition? You said like you want to do this, or Taylor said who want to work on this. So how did this go, and what were like your first tasks here,
Yeah.
if you still remember?
Well, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I first started out with managing all of the open source issues on framework, and then also transitioned to doing those on the other libraries as well. And I guess like I've always had a healthy interest in billing and payment providers and fintech in general. So it came very natural to me that Cashier was like was gonna be like one of my projects at Laravel who got the most attention from me, I guess. Um, I have to admit that I put maybe a little bit more work into Cashier than other packages. Then again, I really enjoyed working on them, and I guess it shows. I overhauled a lot of the code ever since the first versions of Cashier. Um, as I said, like Braintree went away very quickly because it just wasn't something we were using a lot anymore. And Cashier, the first Cashier version was just called Cashier. Now it's called Cashier Stripe to make the better
Mhm.
differentiation between the two. And yeah, Cashier Paddle came along when Paddle became more known, and we decided to create an entire new version for it. The reason why we have two packages for it is because They're just very different payment providers with different APIs. It's just not feasible to create one package with a single API for both of them because the way they handle payments and process payments is just very different from
Mm-hmm.
each other. I think it's better to use different packages because in reality, you're never going to use two payment providers in a single application. If you're doing that, you're doing something very specifically, and you might better end up using the SDKs of Paddle and Stripe or their APIs directly. But for like 99% of the use cases, you're just using one of them, so a separate package makes sense. And then you can also tailor that package very more closely towards the APIs that the payment provider gives you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned Spark way before. So how is Spark connected here? Does it rely on Cashier? Is it kind of Cashier on steroids? Or when would you say is Cashier the right option and when is Spark the right one?
Yeah. So basically, Spark is the UI for subscription-based billing of Cashier. It's you have Cashier Stripe and you have Cashier Paddle. You have Spark Paddle and Spark Stripe, two
Mm-hmm.
separate packages. And it provides you with a billing portal to get started, very easily started with subscription-based billing in your Laravel application. It helps you to very quickly bootstrap a SaaS for your business. Just set up a couple of prices in Paddle or Stripe, connect them through a config, connect API keys, and you very quickly have like a billing portal for your customers to get started with a subscription. Um, there is like something that has been growing over the years, and that's that the payment providers themselves have been coming out with hosted billing portals themselves. So you have Stripe who has their customer portal, and you have Paddle who has a similar one. Um, Actually, I'm not sure if Paddle has one. That
I
slips
think it's
my
right.
mind very
I
quickly.
think they maybe just
Um,
released it or are right before releasing
yeah, I
it,
think they're
as far as
still
I know.
working on it or something. I'm not entirely sure. But anyways, like it has been growing in that area that they're providing their own thing as well. The thing that differentiates a little bit between Spark and the hosted one from Stripe is that Spark also allows you to start a subscription from the billing portal, where Stripe doesn't allow you to do that. It only allows you to manage a subscription after it's been started. So that's a little bit of a difference. The Spark one doesn't have all of the functionality that Stripe maybe provides. It doesn't have support yet for meter billing, which is a very popular request for Spark at the moment. But it does have the very basic support for subscription-based billing. Yeah,
Okay, and we also have to mention here that Spark is a paid product here that you
yeah,
have to pay for if you want to use it from Laravel.
that's true. Yeah,
Okay, and you're maintaining this as well, right? You're the only one.
yeah. It's a natural fit for me with Cashier. Like I said, I really enjoy doing fintech and payment providers. So it's very easily to switch between the both and maintain both of these. Yeah.
Okay, still no idea how you do this, but amazing. Okay, let's get back to the process of working on Cashier. So, what were like the biggest challenges that you faced while building it?
I guess the biggest challenges with Cashier is still is the changes that the payment providers roll out themselves. So the payment providers are constantly improving as well. They release new API versions, they release new functionality, and it's up to us to keep up with that. And that's hard sometimes because, like you know, we have lots of different things going on at Laravel, so it's not always feasible for us to keep up with those features. And with Cashier being open source, we rely a lot on the open source community and the community at Laravel itself to help us with that. For example, Stripe recently released their new usage-based billing system, and I really want to get that into
Hmm.
Cashier Stripe as well because it's basically their new go-to way to do meter billing. But right now we can't dedicate a lot of time to do the research and get it into Cashier because we have a lot of other things going on. So it's helpful if the community stepped in and helped us a little bit with that as well. And that remains like a constant struggle. Like I want to get much more into Cashier than there is now, but there's a time limit on what we can spend on it. Yeah.
Yeah, because as you said, those big companies, of course, they have lots of changes that they do, new services they provide, new features. And yeah, I also wanted to ask, how do you stay updated with all those? Do you really have
Yeah.
to rely also on the users telling you about them because they're probably the first ones noticing some changes or some new features?
That's my go-to way, really. Like, if we notice something is being asked for a lot, we probably should or maybe could spend a little bit time into it because we know a lot of people will be using it. So asking for it is a great way to maybe make sure that it gets into Cashier. But again, like that still doesn't mean that we'll be working on it. We still could maybe use a little help through a pull request.
Yeah,
But that's the main go-to way to know about those. I also regularly check the API logs, of course, from both payment providers to
yeah,
see what's new. But as I said, like some things are just too big to like work on in a single week or something. It
yeah, sure.
probably requires a lot more time to really get the quality we also try to provide with packages like Azure. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, you have to know what is going on, what is new to understand it. Then you
Mhm.
have to research, are there maybe any side effects, anything else is changing. Then you have to try it out somewhere to make sure it's working as you
Mhm.
want it to be. And then you probably have to ask others to try it out as well before you maybe do another release. So yeah, this alone sounds like a huge process for every little change that they maybe do. So it really sounds
Exactly. Yeah.
tough.
Mhm.
Okay, is there, oh yeah, but we also wanted to talk about taxes because as I mentioned before, calculating taxes isn't easy, not for us, but also for payment providers as well. So how does Cashier do it? Do you use any of those bigger providers? Do they have some services or do you have some kind of own solution? Because yeah, this seems like quite a big challenge as well.
Yeah, it's probably the one of the biggest things that people wonder about when they start doing billing to get their taxes right, of course. It's not a trivial thing because it's different everywhere in every single country in every single region in the world. Um, but if you use something like Paddle, it's super easy. You just use Paddle, and you never have to worry about it. That's the upside of using something like Paddle. With Stripe, it's a little bit more complicated. Back in the old version of Stripe, the very old versions of Stripe didn't have anything Stripe tax
Yeah.
related, and you could apply tax percentages, of course, still, but like the entire calculation and whatever tax meant to your customers was totally up to you, and Stripe only worried about the payment processing. Over time, Stripe started to adding more features because it became clear to them that taxation was something very much on the mind of customers, and
And
also
that there
because
is
like
more than
more
just
different,
America out there.
yeah, a little bit, but also that there was just like becoming more and more competition with them, like from different kind of payment providers that started to handle taxation or separate companies that only worried about taxation, which you could integrate with. So they just try to like do it themselves. And they introduced an API called tax rates. And that helped a lot to provide different tax rates for different kind of invoices or different kind of billing types that you did. But you still needed to calculate the taxes yourself. And that's where a package came in that we used in Cashier Stripe, in Spark Stripe, called Fat Calculator, which was created by Marcel Posio, who you
Hmm.
know from Beyond Code probably, heard and
I've heard of
Tinkerwell.
him, yeah.
Yeah. And he created this great package for EU-based taxation. So if you're an EU country and needed to do taxation within the EU, you could use it to add the proper VAT rate to your invoices. And we integrated with that for Spark Stripe, and it's still using that up to this date. Over time, as you know, Stripe even went further and they came out with an entire new product for taxation called Stripe Tax. And now it's much more easier. It's just a flick of a switch, and you need to like enable the regions where you want to declare tax for. But it's so much easier these days to do taxation with Stripe. But it's again a paid module from them, so it adds a little bit extra
Mm-hmm.
costs to the payments that you do. I'm not sure what the percentage is for it exactly. That's something that's not yet supported by Spark Stripe. I really want to get it in at some point because it's a very popular request. But Cashier, it's super easy. If you use Cashier directly, it's just one single line in a payment provider, and you're integrated with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember Marcel talking about this package. I think it's also already quite old, so I don't know, like 7, 8 years, maybe something like this. So it's crazy that this
Yeah, it's
still
quite old. Yeah.
still used and that that good for you, so that we can use it. So thank you, Marcel, again for another nice tool. So let's also think about what are the kind of proudest parts of Cashier? Is there something like in the code where you feel like that you handled this in a nice way, where you're proud of, or maybe just the whole package, or something else that you feel like you're really proud of this part of Cashier?
Yeah, like when I work on packages like Cashier, I always try to focus on simplicity, like just make it as simple as as possible for users to use. And I guess like one of the things that I'm proud of is actually the Stripe tax integration of Cashier with Stripe. It's like I said, it's just like a single line that you need to enable in in Cashier itself, and everything behind the scenes is done for you. There are some configuring options that you can still like set up, but other than that, it's just like a single line, and Stripe Tax is enabled for you on all of your subscription-based billing and invoices that you generate through Cashier. And that was something super nice to work on, yeah, and make that as easy as possible to use.
Yeah. Okay, I also watched your talk from Laravel EU some years ago today, which was also about Cashier and some of the features, and I wanted to prepare myself a little bit. I think it was, I didn't watch the whole thing, but it was also the one where you connected to India and then you were gone through VPN, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that still haunts me to this day. My other at Laravel, people are still laughing with that.
Yeah, I still remember. I felt so sorry for you, but also it was quite funny. So I hope
Yeah,
you
it
can
was
laugh
so
about it
stupid
too.
because, of course, I don't notice it when I practice for my talk. But during the talk, of course, if you switch through a VPN, it disconnects you from the current connection and also the live stream that you're on. So that was super stupid. The reason why I did that is because Paddle has this thing called different currencies for different regions. So you can actually like use a different amount and different currency to provide purchase power parity for different regions. And I wanted to demonstrate that if you're, for example, in India, that you get a different price in India and such. But it was so stupid. I didn't really think about it that much, and
Yeah, for
I think it
everyone.
was
So,
offline for like 4 minutes or something. It was
oh,
quite
that
long.
long? Yeah, so for
Yeah.
everybody who didn't see this, Dries gave a talk at Laracon Online about Cashier, and he was showing a feature where he wanted to switch to another country through VPN, and then show that the prices are different and that they are in a specific currency. And he did, and he switched to India, and of course for his this connection was super poorly, and he was live streaming through Laracon online, and suddenly he was gone. And the last thing he said like was, "I'm now switching to India." And he was gone, and everybody was like laughing because it was kind of obvious for us that
Yeah.
this was probably not a good idea, but
The,
in the situation, of course, you don't think about this. But I think there's also
the
something that
talk
I
is
want. Sorry?
Yeah, the talk is still on YouTube, by the way, so
Yeah.
you can look it up. I'm not sure if they cut it out or anything. I didn't really watch it afterward, but it's on YouTube if you want to watch.
Yeah, I watched most of it today and I didn't see it, so maybe they cut it out. I'm pretty sure because I think I would have seen it today. So,
Nice.
but good that I'm here talking about it so that we still can spread the
Yeah,
message. I'm very sorry, Dries.
yeah,
But one
it's
thing I
fine.
wanted
It's
to
good.
tackle here because one feature in Paddle, which you also showed there, is and which you mentioned is that you can say that for a specific product you can have different support different currencies. So as you can see,
Yeah,
normally for myself, my product would have a price in euros, but you can also see for others, maybe from the US, you want to show a price in dollars, and then you see the currency in dollars, but you also can adapt the price. And this is also something that I've seen you showing that with Cashier, you have a nice way to change the price for a product depending on whatever you want, right?
yeah, that's right. I think also Stripe provides it these days. They have multi-currency support, even in invoices. I think I'm not super sure about it, but I haven't really dug into the Stripe side of things about this feature. But Paddle has it from day one, so it's very easy to set up. You just define the prices inside Paddle dashboard itself, and whatever IP address is used or location, it's based on geolocation, I think. It will just change automatically, or you can also force it through the API. I think I'm not super sure about it, but I think that's possible as well. Yeah,
Yeah, because we want to provide different prices for people in different locations because, yeah, money is different in every country. And if I have sell my
yeah,
course here for $100, of course, I can't do this in another country where this is way more money than here. So this is pretty cool about Paddle,
yeah,
which I used myself. I think they're around 25 currencies, something like this, that you can just enable and say, okay, in this country, you want to use the local currency and the price. But also, what I've noticed is that there are many countries which maybe have the same currency, but the money is still ways different. So a lot of people were contacting me that for that country they don't see anything because this was a currency that maybe was not supported or in a different country. So I had to
yeah,
use a different solution for myself. So I was not using Cashier, so I had to directly talk to Paddle to create a custom price. But you've shown this, how this is done in Cashier in this talk, which we mentioned here. And this is what I really think was pretty cool because you just can pick up data from your database, from your users, and maybe some users get a different price because for any reasons, and you can just code this up and then create this checkout
yeah.
with this custom price, which was really, really nice. So I really like
That's
that
right.
feature.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I think to sum this up a little bit, we talked about Cashier, we talked about Spark a little bit, we talked a little bit about Stripe and probably Pedal platforms. Can you maybe sum this up a little bit? So, who would you recommend which? So, who should use maybe Stripe platform, who should use maybe Spark, and who should use Cashier?
well, I guess like there's no like right choice for you to make between Stripe and Battle. It really depends on which one you feel more comfortable with. Like Stripe gives you more options, more flexibility in terms of like features. They have a great dashboard. They have a great support team as well. Like it's a very all-around option that can grow with you in the future. Paddle is, of course, super easy to get started with. It provides you with help for taxation. They have less features than Stripe, but are just super simple to use. They also have a great support team, by the way. So it really depends on you, or whatever you want. You can't really make a bad choice here. Both packages provide great functionality. Like I said, Stripe has more than Battle, but it's totally up to you what you'll use. And for Spark, if you're doing subscription-based billing for like SaaS, which use like a monthly and yearly interval, then Spark can really like kickstart that for you and get you started very easily with that. If you want to quickly get started with a SaaS-based application, yeah. And we have both Paddle and Stripe available for you.
That's pretty cool. So thank you for this quick summary. I think we're already 40 minutes in, 42. Is there anything we missed that you want to talk about, or should we go already to questions? So if you have questions already, you can post them now. We will look at them in a minute. Is there anything else you want to mention about Cashier that we missed, or?
Not specifically, just that we have great documentation for you to get started, like they're on the Laravel docs. So definitely go check those out. We have docs for both Paddle and Stripe integrations, as well as our spark.laravel.com website, where you can look at Spark itself. As we said before, Spark is a paid integration, not a free one. But if you, Cashier is entirely free and open source. The repos are open source. And if you have any questions, you can ask me here or later on Twitter as well.
Oh, perfect. And I think maybe just one quick question from my side. Are there any future plans for Cashier? Do you feel like it's currently feature ready? Of course, you have to adapt to what the big payment providers do, but are there any big features that you would love to see being added?
Yeah. We currently don't have any major plans for Cashier or Spark. Like we aren't really planning on doing much feature development on there because, like you said, they already have quite a bit of features. Spark itself is maybe a little bit behind on some features, but in general, what Spark is meant to do to provide subscription-based billing for simple monthly, yearly subscriptions, it's basically feature rich already. But Cashier, I don't have a lot of plans for it myself. I would very much like the community to step up if they want to see something in there, and they can always send in a pull request that we can review. Someday, I really hope to get Stripe Connect support for it. To say what Stripe Connect is like a distributed based payment process for customers where you're not the one selling a product, but your users are selling products. And then you can connect different accounts for customers from your customers through Stripe itself. It's like an entire different Stripe product. And someday I would really like to get support for that in the Cashier as well. But there are third-party solutions for that for Laravel as well out there. So definitely check those out as well. Yeah.
It's always great to have lots of options here for our Laravel community. So this is already amazing. Let me bring up here the questions. Let's see if there's anything. We have some, not questions, but some feedback here. I use Cashier with customer portal and checkout, and taxes are not a problem at all. Just let Stripe manage them. Yeah, so I guess that's always the best way if you don't have to deal with that.
That's a great solution as well. If you don't want to use Spark specifically, you can just roll with Stripe's hosted customer portal and checkout. They are great products which work very well. Yeah, it's totally up to you what you want to do there. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I think this we should also mention. Same dude with lemon squeezy package. What a legend. Dries, he's talking about you.
Yeah, I also have my own integration with Lemon Squeezy, which is a different payment provider as well. They also have a customer like merchant of record model, and I also have a separate package with them on their own GitHub organization. Yeah.
This man rentless, crazy. Also some feedback here. Cashier is awesome and love the customization they provide with events and webhooks. So mostly we don't have questions, just some love for you. Oh yeah, I think we tackled this a little bit. I want to know the main reason why there are different packages for Stripe and Paddle.
Yeah, so basically what I talked about before, they're very different payment providers. You probably ever aren't going to use both at the same time, which is the reason why we decided to create separate packages for them so we could really focus the API of each package towards the payment provider itself and not like focus on like having a single API for everything. That way we can provide the most maximum flexibility for each payment provider itself. Yeah.
I guess at some point it's also easier to maintain two package than when you have one, but you have to deal with all those different ways that they do something. So you have a lot of
Yeah.
code that you maybe don't need and maybe not so beautiful code. So I guess in this case, two
Yeah.
packages is easier to handle than one.
It's also easier to maintain with future updates from the payment providers themselves because maybe at some point a payment provider, for example, payment provider Paddle changed a lot on their product with Paddle
Yeah.
billing, and it's required a major overhaul of the package. And then maybe the Stripe code would be a little bit in the way there. So it's just much easier to maintain separate packages. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is one question by Kruglyfik.
Ah, right. Yeah.
Is there an easier
Is,
way to
uh,
test Paddle than HTTP mocks? Do you know what he means?
yeah. I guess like this is a question that pops up regularly when you work with Cashier. Like, how do you test the billing integration itself? For the Stripe one, it's easy. We actually just hit the Stripe API in our test suite. We use testing keys, of course, but that way we get the 100% insurance that the cashier itself is working with Stripe itself. For Paddle, there isn't really a way to do that except for the few API endpoints they provide. But the payments that you handle with them, for example, when you start a subscription or when you sell a product, they use like a widget or inline checkout experience, which is boxed in to their own environment, and you can't test on that really. So what we recommend there is just to rely on whatever they provide and whatever Cashier provides. Maybe if you really want to avoid hitting their API, use like a repository scheme to put behind the service web layer and then like a testing web layer to mock the method calls that you make towards Cashier. But like I wouldn't really worry about testing the payment side of things because the packages themselves are already very well tested themselves. So I wouldn't super much worry about that. Just worry about the code that you use to integrate the package switch, which is to check what access that you provide to certain areas in your app based if you have a subscription or not, or and I wouldn't worry too much about anything else.
Thank you. Let's see, maybe one more. Adrian is here as well. I'm not sure if I'm number one
Hey,
or two,
Adrian.
but thank you, Adrian.
We'll leave that in the middle.
A friend of mine from Austria. Let's see, do we have one more? I think that's it. So, anything else you want to mention? Maybe you can still mention where people can follow you or updates on what you do. Maybe I think mostly
Yeah.
on Twitter, or is there anything else where people can follow
Yeah.
you?
I'm Dries Vints on Twitter, and I have a Pinkery profile as well, which is created by our lovely colleague Nuno Maduro.
Hello, Nuno.
Pinkery.com/@Dries Vints, and there you can find all of my links from all of my stuff that I work on and all of my social profiles.
So much easier with Pinkery. So great that we have it. Thank
For
you,
sure.
Nuno,
Yeah.
as well from me. Okay, then I think thank you so much, Dries, for taking the time and sharing all the knowledge and the process of creating this awesome package that a lot of people love. So thank you from my side and also from the community as well for working on this. Really glad to have you, but also this package. And I think, is there anything else you want to say to our community before we leave them off for the rest of the day?
Yeah. Thank you for hosting me, Christoph. It's been really fun. Thanks everyone who joined and asked questions. Really appreciate that. And like I said, like feel free to ask more questions on Twitter, or yeah, I'll try to answer them there as well. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, perfect. So if you like the stream, please make sure to like it as well. This helps us a lot. And of course, there will be more interviews that I do with the Laravel team. If you have any suggestions on who I should interview next and about which product, please write it in the comments or hit me up on Twitter as well. And yeah, thank you for joining and have a good rest of the day wherever and whenever you are. And see you the next time. Bye.
Bye all.